All right, welcome to another video. I'm pretty excited. Right here, we're hosting a live conversation with Ram with Colourlock. And, for all of you, you've been asking a lot of questions on just how to maintain your leather interior, especially on our BMWs. Our BMWs have good quality interior work, and many times you could just ruin it by just putting on the wrong products. And if you see one of my videos before, I uploaded a video and I've used some of these products from Colourlock, and I got to tell you, my steering wheel, it's like brand new basically, and it's pretty disgusting when you finally start cleaning it and you put your hands on that steering wheel for so long you just forget about it, and you look at it and you're like, what is all this grime? It's like discoloration. That's actually your grease. That's like sweat coming from, it's gross. COVID, be safe, you know what I mean? So with that saying, I'm excited today because we have Ram with us. He works with Colourlock, and he has a lot of information to share with us about how to maintain your leather interior. So without further ado, let me just bring up our special guest, Ram. Thank you so much. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Thank you so much for being on with us.
It. And before I get deeper into the products, let me just give you a bit of background information about the company itself, who we are, what we do. We're primarily a German company, established in Germany back in 1995. So this year is our 25th anniversary, and the company in Germany is called Leder Zentrum, which basically just stands for Leather Center in English. And this company was started by a Kiwi and a German guy. And the guy who started the company, or the brand Colourlock, he started when he was in New Zealand. That's where some of our initial products were developed. So something like the elephant leather wax. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that. That was developed back in New Zealand. Sort of late 1990s. He got married to a German lady and subsequently decided to move to Germany. That's where he met up with his future business partner and started the company called Centrum. And since that point, so when the company was started, originally, a lot of the products that were developed were mainly sort of cleaning and conditioning products, and these guys would also repair and restore leather as a service, right? But when they looked at the products that were available on the market, they felt that they could do a better job themselves of implementing and introducing new products. So they started making these products, and slowly over time got better at it. And sort of early 2000s, they got approached by a lot of OEMs asking for sort of solutions to fix various issues that they were having, mainly in the manufacturing stage. Right, so that's how that led to the introduction of better products, and naturally, the products that we were making, they got tested by all of these OEMs as well. And we then got deeper into it. We started developing DIY range of products as well as professional range of products as well. So the professional range is mainly aimed at detailers and valeters, and or anyone else who just wants to repair and restore leather as a full-time job. And the DIY products are just aimed at the end users, right? So that was sort of back in 2005. Today, we're a company that's 25 years old. We manufacture all of our own products in Germany. Some of our products are manufacture them ourselves, and that's been going on for quite a while as well. And we've just obviously, with me being in the UK, we look after the UK market, but also the North American market. There are plans for us to expand further into North America. So potentially having a base and an office and a warehouse in North America, so we can serve our American customers a lot better. Because at this point, everything gets shipped out of the UK, and obviously, as you imagine, there's delays and there's issues sometimes, and the plans were to sort of start earlier on this year, but the whole COVID and the pandemic has just sort of thrown our plans off completely. But yeah, to bring it back, what we do is we specialize in making products to clean, restore, sort of clean, restores, specialist stain removal products for leather, vinyl, and plastic, so hard plastic as well. And by vinyl, I mean sort of PVC or artificial leather or fake leather, right? So yeah, we've got. I mean, in total, we've got about 80 products, 80 to 85 products, just to deal with all sorts of issues on these surfaces, on these three main surfaces. But when you add up all the variations of products that we do, I think we've got over like 4,000 SKUs, you know. So yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell who we are, what we do. We're more than happy to, if there's any specific questions, then I'm open to answer. But otherwise, if we've got, if you just want to touch on cleaning, perhaps some questions that you've got yourself, Brian, more than happy to look at that and get right into it.
Yeah, man. I think right now what we can talk about is, just to let more viewers join in, people are stopping by and whatnot. Um, what do you recommend? How should we start to maintain our leather? You know what I mean? In my point of view, I literally just went online. I'm like, how do I best clean my M Sport leather steering wheel? Because that M Sport steering wheel, it's not cheap. It's pretty expensive, and I don't want to just put anything on it. I don't want to scratch it. And I know you have some really good products, but how should one start with maintaining your leather?
Okay, so in terms of maintaining leather, obviously, when it comes to cleaning, right, it's very easy. So leather has a pH value of about 4.5, right, and it's very easy to find a leather cleaner on the market that'll clean very well, but it'll have a very high pH value, right? And that's all good because in that instance, when you're cleaning it, it'll give you a very clean looking seat. But if you consistently keep using that, in the long run, what that's doing is that's drying out the leather. It's promoting that oxidation process, right? So it's important to use a pH balanced cleaner that also performs very well, right? So if your leather's not too dirty, right, it's just you look after it, it's in pretty good nick, it's not too dirty, then I'd suggest you start with something called as a mild leather cleaner, which is a water-based cleaner, has a pH of about 5.5, right? And here's the other thing, right? So most leather cleaners come in a spray bottle, right? But our cleaners come in foam bottles, which you would have noticed, right? And what the foamers do is, it makes sure that you don't get the leather too wet. You don't make it too wet when you clean, which you shouldn't be doing, right? And again, because the main reason for that is, again, if you keep doing that consistently over time, you're going to dry out that leather a lot quicker. You don't need to make it that wet when you clean it, right? Especially if it's not too dirty. So that's one advantage of using a foam cleaner. The second advantage is you use considerably less product, right? So, a 200 ml bottle will actually go much further than, let's say a 500 ml spray bottle, right? And if you use that in conjunction with our leather cleaning brush, that again will get you fabulous results, right? So that's the basic form of cleaning leather. What can you do to, if you want to clean a leather interior that's not in very bad conditions, not too dirty, take the mild cleaner, grab our brush, squirt some of the cleaner directly onto the brush first. Don't put it directly on the leather. Get it on the brush, scrub it, work on a panel, and then wipe it down. That would be your cleaning process, right? And obviously, now if we look into the protection aspect, this is where I think there's a lot of myth and there's a lot of stories about, automotive leathers, coated leather. Should you be conditioning it? Should you not be conditioning it? There's a lot of articles, a lot of talk on various different forums. Here is what our take is on it. If you look at brand new automotive leather, right? So you've just gone out, purchased a brand new vehicle. Your leather is brand new, right? So that automotive leather is pigmented leather. So what that has is basically it's coated with paint on the surface. It's got dye underneath, but then on top it's got a layer of primer, paint, and clear coat, which in leather terms is called a top coat, right? So because that surface itself is completely coated, right? Any conditioner that you put or apply to the surface is not really going to soak in, right? It's just going to sit on the surface. It's not going to penetrate. Does that make sense? right? So what we advise is that in the first 3 years, you rather than applying a conditioner, what you really need is, or what that leather needs, is it needs protection against two main things. One, it needs protection against abrasion. So just getting in and out of the car, that scuffs the bolster usually, right? It needs protection against that. And if you've got a light colored seat, so like a beige or a ivory color or a gray, light gray color, then it needs protection against dye transfer, right? So dye from clothing and jeans and denim and stuff like that, that transfers onto leather. So that's where we have a product called the leather shield, which prevents that from happening. Or even if you apply the leather shield, and you get some form of dirt, it makes it very, very easy to clean it, right? So that's for the first 3 years, or let's say you could say up to about 25 to 30,000 miles. That leather doesn't really need any form of conditioner. After that point is when the leather becomes more receptive to conditioning products, right? So that's when we have a product called the leather protector, which has antioxidants and oils and things like that helps keep it soft, prevents it from UV fading, right? So long and short of it is, we've got we've got various different types of care products, and the reason why we have that is obviously because we're a specialist when it comes to leather, and you can't just have one leather conditioner for a brand new leather and a leather that's extremely old and dry, or something that's somewhere in between, right? Each type of leather, depending on the age and the condition of it, needs a slightly different treatment, right? So that's how we approach it.
And I think that's helpful. Again, I am still learning how to go about this. I'm still learning what products to use, and stuff. And I know that I started off with the conditioner, like you mentioned, and I applied the shield protection that made my steering wheel just look amazing. And I think my goal now is to maintain it, so it just won't chip off, it won't corrode, it won't like rip. You know what I mean? Get too dry. And I think that's something that like you mentioned, it's that process of continuously conditioning your leather, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something I think it's important, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of sort of myth around, how much should you do it, right? How often should you do it? So the trick with leather is too much in one go doesn't really help, right? It's almost like you've got to keep doing it regularly, but you don't have to apply too much product. That's the best way to treat it, right? And you got to choose: do you apply a conditioner or do you apply a sealant, right? So the leather shield is a sealant. It doesn't keep your leather soft, right? It doesn't provide any oils that keep the leather soft, but what it does is it prevents against abrasion. So when you look at a steering wheel, what you're doing all day is just, when you're driving, your hands inadvertently are sort of sanding it, right? And there's more risk of you scuffing it. That's where the leather shield is very, very effective in preventing that, right? And the same applies to a brand new leather, right? So for the first 3 years, you don't really need to apply a conditioner. You just apply the cleaner to clean it, and then the leather shield.
Well, that helps. That helps a
Yeah.
lot, man. And I think that's something that we, again, thank you so much for sharing that information, man. What I want to move into now is just more or less, what can Colourlock offer to our BMWs that you recommend, right? We talked about the leather interior, we talked about the steering wheel, but what do you recommend for us to, I guess, what should be our first purchase? You know what I mean? Should we start off with the steering wheel? Is that the most immediate thing because our hands are on it, grime? Or should we start off with the upholstery, or the side panels? Like what are those immediate areas of attention that we should address?
Right. So the first thing I'd say is just, I think depending on the age of the vehicle, right? So if your BMW is less than 3 years old, I'd say, the leather shield kit or the care kit for new leather, right? Which was the sort of the thumbnail that you used, right? That is going to be your go-to product, and that should be good enough to do sort of pretty much every area in your car, right? That's all you need, right? Now, if your car is older than that, that's when you've got to decide, and if you're, obviously you guys, where you're based, you get a lot more sun than us. So, UV fading is probably also a concern for you. So, but after 3 years is when you also want to apply a product called the leather protector, which protects against UV fading, right? Um, so that's only after 3 years, though, right? And obviously, we've got other types of cleaners as well. So if you've just purchased a BMW, right, which is in a bad way, the interior is, let's say, it's not completely ruined, but and so it doesn't need a brand new interior, but it's just very, very filthy, right? And if you just need to clean it, then you can grab, rather than going for the mild leather cleaner, you switch to the strong leather cleaner, right? So you get strong leather cleaner with the brush, right? So the mild and the strong leather cleaner are two water-based cleaners, right? Um, Mild leather cleaner has a pH of about 5.5, whereas the strong leather cleaner has a higher pH, probably closer to about 9.5, right? So it'll clean better and it'll clean very, very well. But it's not something that we'd recommend you use for general regular cleaning, right? I'd say stick to the mild leather cleaner for that, right? So that's basically your cleaning and protection. Now, of course, a lot of the cars, usually the bolster area is the one that's gets damaged as you're coming in and out of the car every day. The driver's seat bolster, that's what gets scuffed, right? So a lot of people think that it's the leather that's damaged, whereas it's not. The leather is not technically damaged. What's happened is, as I explained earlier, what's on the surface is a layer of, the leather has obviously been dyed. Then on top of that, it's got a layer of primer, which is just an adhesion promoter, right? Then what they do in the manufacturing stage is they spray a layer of paint or pigment, right? And to protect that paint layer, they spray a clear coat, in leather terms referred to as a top coat, right? So very similar to bodywork, if you think about it, right? Now the advantage of this type of leather is that it's very easy to clean and maintain. You can grab a cleaner, brush, scrub it, and get it clean without damaging the leather. Obviously, assuming that you're using sort of suitable products, right? And the second advantage is that it lasts a long time, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard of a term called aniline leather. Have you ever heard aniline leather? Right. So have you in the Ford F-150s, they have something called as King Ranch leather. Do you know that? Do you know how that is different to what's inside your BMW leather? Right. Right. So the difference between that is that in the Ford F-150s, the King Ranch leather is called aniline leather, which is completely porous. So obviously on a BMW leather, majority of them, when you apply the primer, the paint, and the clear coat, that seals the pores on the leather surface. So the animal skin where the hairs used to be, right? Those hairs are removed, and then when you put the primer, the paint, and the clear coat, all of that just seals the surface. Whereas if you don't apply any of that, right? If the leather is just dyed, right, then it has sort of a two-tone effect to it, almost sort of a mottled effect, right? So it's a very natural form of leather, right? And that type of leather is obviously very, very prone to staining because if you spill anything on it, it'll just soak in straight away. It's just like paper, right? So cleaning that is going to be virtually impossible, right? So if that is stained, you can't clean it, right? The only way to prevent that or to fix that is to just apply paint on the surface, right? So it's knowing the difference between those two types of leather. But majority modern day BMWs, I think there's this majority modern day BMWs are going to have the coated pigmented leather that is easy to clean, maintain, and look after. Right. So if your bolster is damaged, what we can do is, if you guys just email us some photos and email your VIN number or your chassis number, right? We can speak to a local BMW dealership, find out the exact details about the trim color that your BMW has, right? And based on the photos, we'll tell you that, look, maybe if you've got deep cracks, you might need to fill them with a leather filler. We can supply the filler for you. And obviously the paint, which would be custom mixed to your interior as well. Yeah.
Man, that's wow.
Yeah. And that paint can just be applied with a sponge, right? So you don't really need to have any special skill or anything like that. The paint comes in a bottle. You just make sure you clean the surface, degrease it, prep it correctly, right? and then just apply the product in very thin layers. Just build up the layers as you go along, and that'll give you a very, very good finish, right? So that's for the guys who are purchasing sort of older BMWs. They've bought something, purchased something that's a little bit tired. They just want to refresh the color, make the interior look, make the interior pop a little bit more. That's what we'd advise. But again, my advice would be for anyone who's not sure, because I completely understand we have a lot of products and it can be sort of a little confusing for guys who are probably going onto our website first time round. I'd say just email us some photographs. Email us some photographs. Tell us what you've got, what the condition is. Give us your chassis number, and we'll tell you exactly what you got to do.
And I think that's helpful because having a professional like yourself letting us know what you recommend, it helps a lot, man. And a lot of us are scared. You know what I mean? Like, we have this myth of like, okay, I have leather interior, I need to get my windows tinted super dark. You know what I mean? And it's a myth, right? Because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you have the right products, the shield, the conditioning, and you're maintaining your leather, do you really need tint? Do you really need to go and just darken out, or can you go with that fishbowl look that people really want?
So, is it are people tinting it just to avoid sort of UV fading? Is that
So the myth is the sun will crack the leather, basically.
okay? Right. So here's the thing, right? You need you need a lot of sun, and I mean seriously a lot of sun, and for a long period of time. And as long as you've not neglected your interior for a long period of time, you're not gonna have leather that's cracked. Obviously, everyone has different levels of toleration. Some would be irritated by a very small nick or a tear or a crack, whereas others would be more acceptable of okay, that's fine, I can live with that, right? But as best practice, as long as you're cleaning it once, so assuming this is your daily driver, it's a car that you drive on a daily basis. If you clean the interior and protect it once every 2 to 3 months, that's all you really need to do, right? So little goes a long way when it comes to leather. It's not like you don't have to keep doing it, as often as people think, right? And if in fact over application is not going to it's not going to cause any damage, but it's not going to provide any benefit.
That's that's helpful, because I made a mistake of getting my windows tinted. I went all dark, and I was afraid. I'm like, I don't want to crack it, I don't want the sun to ruin it. But you're right. I mean, I guess it would take a lot of heat, in other words, right? And if you're maintaining it, you're good, right?
Yeah, and this stuff's quite durable, So it's designed to last a long time. So manufacturers make these cars because they want it to last a long time, and obviously they've paid enough attention to the interiors as well because they want that interior to last just as long, right? So in most cases, I mean, we've got customers who come here with 30, 40, 50-year-old cars, and they're more or less still in good condition. So it doesn't need a lot, right? And if it's genuine leather, it can be restored to a very, very, very good condition, right? So the amount of restoration that you can do is pretty amazing when it comes to leather, right? And for a lot of the guys, I think it will also be comforting to know that a lot of the automotive leather is just very similar to bodywork, right? What you've got on bodywork is primer, paint, and clear coat. And when people are polishing their cars, applying wax and all of that, that's what they're doing. You're just working on that clear coat. So when you've got a scuffed bolster, that's just because abrasion has caused that clear coat to just rub off over time, and subsequently the paint. And all you've got to do is just restore the paint again. So what you really need is just clean it. Step one, clean it very well, get rid of dirt on the surface. Step two, degrease it, right? Because again, any grease or oils on the surface is going to stop that paint from bonding to the surface, right? So make sure you clean it, make sure you degrease it, fill any bits that need to be filled, and then just apply the paint on top. It's just as simple as that, right? So we've got a lot of BMW interiors as well. So a lot of leather samples from BMW. I don't know. Perhaps some of you guys will have a leather interior called a Shakir orange. Have you heard of that? Right. So that seems to be a popular color. So it's like an orangey tan color interior. That's quite popular. I think in total, even if you look at our website, I think we've got over quite close to about 100 different samples when it comes to BMW, right? And and the other thing that I did not mention is that our products are approved by OEMs, right? So our products and our techniques, right, especially the professional grade products, are approved by the OEMs because they use it, right? So we go out and we train the guys at the BMW manufacturing facility in South Carolina, in Spartanburg. We've been there, we've trained the guys. The guys use our products on a regular basis, right? That's where they're fixing sort of little issues, during the manufacturing stage when they're assembling the car. And if they've got sort of little issues, rather than redo that whole thing, they'll just fix it.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing that the OEMs stand behind you guys, and I think that says a lot. There's a lot of big companies out there that just they don't you don't hear of that happening. So that's amazing stuff, man. Um, I think you shared a lot of information, Ram, and I really appreciate your time, man. I thank you so much for just informing the BMW community about how to properly maintain our interior. And leather, there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of stuff that we believe, and doing it the right way makes a big difference, man. So let's talk about this giveaway.
Yeah.
We briefly talked about it. We mentioned it on Instagram a little bit, and I know after this we're gonna be promoting it a lot more. But
Yeah.
what is in this package? What are you giving away to those three winners?
So each winner will get one of our care kits, which contains the mild leather cleaner. It contains times, right? And we've also included our leather cleaning brush, which seems to be growing in popularity like nothing else. I mean, I always loved the brush, but I never thought that it would be such as popular as it is, really. So it includes that as well. So it's going to be up to you, really, to pick the winners. And I think when are we going to announce the giveaway?
Yeah, so the giveaway is going to be on October 14th. It's around 20-ish days from today. So right
Okay.
now, the form is already live. So if you guys want to go in the description of this video, there will be the link for you to go in and just take a two-step process. That's all it is. And those two-step processes to follow this YouTube channel, and also to follow a Colourlock on their Instagram account. You have to do it through that form. Don't just go on your own. You got to do it through that form. That's the only way you get entered into the competition. And then later on, we'll pick out the system. We'll pick out three winners. It won't be me. It'll just be the system. It's like an auto-generated thing. So yeah, we're excited about that. It's something that I believe it's. I mean, hey, it's an amazing giveaway. It's a great gift. It's something that it's gonna just benefit your car overall. So that's what we're doing. And I think that's pretty much it. Ram, do you have any last comments?
No, I think for all the BMW fans out there, I'll just say, if you've got any questions with the interior, I mean, our products work on leather, vinyl, and plastic, so hard plastic stuff as well. And we've got a lot of different products. Details of I can't go into obviously all of them right now, but if people have issues, the best thing I can say is just email us. Email us. Our email address is info@colourlock.com. So that's info at color. That's color with a U. lock.com. Send that in to us, and we'll look at it and we'll tell you the best course of action from that point on. And if you have any issues, we're more than happy to help and support you. If we don't have a sample, people can send stuff in to us as well. So we have customers on a daily basis sending us headrests, armrests. Because sometimes there's always going to be that one car where we don't have a sample of, a leather sample of, and if we don't have the leather sample, obviously we can't mix the paint, right? Because we've got to mix the paint and match it to the interior of the guy, the person who's ordering it. So if we don't have that in stock in our database, we just request customers to send a headrest or any sort of removable part that we can use to mix the paint, and obviously we'll return that with any products that you order.
Got it. So man, well,
Boom.
thank you so much, Ram. Really appreciate you, man. Appreciate your time, guys. Go check them out. Colourlock. I'll put all the links to the description in the description below. Make sure you follow them on social media, and also make sure you send them an email for your products. I mean, these guys know their stuff. I mean, if they're matching, color, if the OEM companies are standing behind them, that says a lot. And I got to tell you, if you want a reference video, I have a video of me using their products on my M Sport leather steering wheel, and it's like night and day. It literally restored my entire steering wheel, and it looks phenomenal. So again, thank you so much, Ram. I really appreciate your time. Guys, you will find this video recording on my YouTube channel shortly. And yeah, thanks again.
Enter that giveaway, guys. Enter that giveaway.
That's all I can say.
Go on it, and we'll go from there, man. Well, thank you so much, Ram. Appreciate your time, man.